All right, well, it's great to see everybody for round 2 of task force meeting number 1. Thanks for your patience as we waited to be able to do this meeting via Zoom. I'm Becky Taylor, so your first task force meeting that you had in October, I was not yet with the staff at the City of Stillwater, so I'm happy to be here and learn from each of you and walk through this process with you. We do have a full agenda. Hopefully you received that. And so in order to be respectful of everyone's time and to make sure that we make the most of this hour and a half that we have together, I do ask that as we have discussion and questions, just be mindful of the full agenda that we're hoping to get through in this hour and a half. But I look forward to the great discussion and the things that we're going to learn today. A few ground rules before we get started. This is probably approximately your 1,000th Zoom call in the past year, so you're probably all pros at how to use Zoom. But just in case, if you are not speaking, please just keep it on mute, and that way we can hear the person talking without background noise. That would be helpful. Also, feel free to use the raise hand function or the chat box, and I will be keeping an eye on the chat box. So feel free to use that as well. This is an open meeting, and so just a good reminder to know that open meetings, we have the agendas out in advance. Anyone's welcome to join and to watch our meetings. And so just be mindful of that as well. If I send an email or Patty sends an email, do not reply all. Just make sure that all of our discussion and meetings happen inside our task force meeting times. And then also, if you are not a task force member watching, and everyone I see here is, so if you are not, welcome. I'm glad you're here. But it looks like at this point, most of the folks on the call are task force members. But if happen to have a non-task force member involved in this call, just wait until the public comment section on the agenda, and then we'd love to hear your input if you have any. All right, well, before we get started, I would love to go around with the folks that are on the call for introductions. I know you did this on your first call in October, but it's been a few months and a few life events have happened since then. So let's go around, and if you wouldn't mind introducing yourself, maybe say how long you've lived in Stillwater, unless you are in Florida like Lisa, and then also what interests you in this task force. And we'll just quickly go through, I'll call you so that we know who's talking, and then we'll get started with the agenda. So Vice Mayor Darlington, you're the first box on my screen. Why don't you share?
Well, now you just gave me away. I've been in Stillwater for 45 years. I've been on City Council for almost 7 years, and I have 2 more real meetings left in this term. So I'll be done in April. I am very excited to be on the task force as originally as the representative from the City Council. Maybe I'll be emeriti representative from the City Council after this, but I'll see this through because it's an important discussion.
Thanks, Pat. Madeline?
Hi, I'm Madeline Goddard. I've been in Stillwater just over 2 years. I'm a retired engineer in environmental, and just wanted to continue to give back to the community. Thank you.
Great. Deanna?
Hi, I've lived here for about 46 years, and I've been interested in the environment for a very, very long time. And so that's how Carol Preston and I got involved in the Ready for 100 through Sierra Club and got this thing started. And it's, I want to keep on fighting for Carol and for all of us.
Henri?
Hi, my name is Henri Wahara. My background is in electrical engineering and computer science. I started a couple of computer companies in California and Silicon Valley. I lived there for some 30 some odd years after graduating from college. But I grew up in Stillwater as a kid, and I graduated from what was then called C.E. Donart High School, which is now Stillwater High. I came back to take care of my mother, who had health problems. So I guess 8 years ago, I moved back to Stillwater to take care of her. And it gave me some time to get involved in various activities like the Stillwater Tennis Association, of which I'm the president, to try to lobby the city to redo some of the tennis courts. And we got that finally done in 2017. That took a while, 4 years. But my interest is in trying to get the city to support climate change activities, and including any kind of activities in renewable energy. And I think there's a lot of stuff happening in that space right now where the city can get involved and do some good for the community, as well as support renewable energy efforts to support climate change, to combat climate change. In any case, I'm excited to be part of the task force, and I'm more than ready to help in any way I can.
Robin?
Hi, I'm Robin Cornwell. I was part of the Ready for 100 group that developed the renewable energy resolution and brought it before the city council last February. I've lived in Stillwater for, 19 years in July. And I have a background in environmental policy.
Lauren, you want to go next?
Hi, I'm Lauren Smith. I'm the Electric Utility Director for the Stillwater Electric Utility. I've lived in Stillwater for almost 53 years, which is, how old I am. So my whole life. And born and raised Stillwater. I too went to C.E. Donart High School. I've worked for the electric utility for 35 years and have grown up in the power generation facilities, Boomer Lake Station, and of course the Stillwater Energy Center. So I'm excited to look at new technology, renewables, and see how we can help provide our customers with what they desire. We are your proud public power provider, and that's our job. So thank you.
Lisa, you're up next.
Hi, everybody. I'm Lisa Vetter, and I am a technical consultant to the Renewable Energy Task Force for several years now on electric and water and wastewater rates and rate design. I have over 30 years experience in the utility industry. I have an undergrad degree from the University of Wisconsin-Madison in industrial engineering. I have a master's from Harvard in public administration. And I started out my career in resource recovery or waste to energy back in the 80s, which is recovering energy from solid waste, municipal solid waste. And from that, my career kind of ended up in what we would call alternative fuels. And at the time, renewables are considered alternative fuels, but I also dealt a lot with biomass, just about anything non-traditional that you could try to make power out of. I a lot of time also dealing in the regulatory side of the house, also with rates and financial rate making. So I have a technical background. I also have a financial and regulatory background. And with the current state of the industry, all these different hats are needed to come up with actionable solutions that work for everybody.
Great. Christine?
Okay, can you see me? Hi. I'm Christine Waits, and as you can tell by the giant sailfish in the background, I'm on vacation in Florida right now, so I apologize. My time won't be that long, but this is very important to me, and I'm glad to be here. I've been in Stillwater since 1996 and got interested in renewable energies and being a part of this task force and with the city when I tried to put solar panels on my house and realized that it was incredibly cost prohibitive. And after reviewing kind of some of the policies that our city held, I realized maybe they could use a little bit of fine tuning and refreshing. So started talking to a few of you who are on this call, and here we are now. So I'm excited to be here and grateful. And again, I'm going to apologize that I'm going to have to jump off of this call a little bit early, and you very well may see, bathing suit covered people in sandy feet run past us. So I'll apologize in advance and try to keep myself off video.
Sounds good. Thanks, Christine. Jenica, do you want to introduce yourself? No, she's.
I think maybe
What
we're
about,
just there for her.
okay, what about Dana? Sharon? Yeah, okay. Patty?
Debbie, were you, I'm sorry, this is Mike Shanahan, Sharon Shanahan.
Yeah.
Hi there. Yeah, we got involved, or actually we were recruited in the fall of 2018 by Deanna and Carol. So we've been involved pretty much from the beginning. Sharon and I both work at Frontier Electronic Systems, Sharon in quality, and I am supply chain. We've both been involved with Stop Fracking Payne County in the future. I was involved in the City Task Force on recycling beginning back in 2010. I'm on my second tenure on the Stillwater Planning Commission.
Great, thank you. And then I have Patty here. Patty, you introduce, everyone probably knows you. but-
Probably. I'm Patty Osmus, assistant to the city manager, and I'm going to be working with Becky and supporting you guys and getting you whatever you need. So glad to be a part of it.
Great, well, it sounds like we have a great team here. Well, let's go ahead and get started. Next on our agenda is the community solar update, and Lauren is going to get us started with that conversation.
All right, I'm going to share my screen here. Can you guys see my screen now? It shows the overview of the site. Did I lose everybody? Whoop. Was that a yes?
Yes, we see it, Lauren.
Okay, thank you. I'm sorry, I couldn't see. I
No,
lost
you're-
my visuals there, so.
You're good. We-
Okay. So back in October, we went to the trustees. GRDA, just as a little reminder, is working with us to let us install community solar in our community. And back in October, we presented to the trustees and kind of gave them an idea of what we were wanting to do. And the next step, there's several steps in the process. GRDA will go out and release an RFQ and negotiate a contract for us. And if it's acceptable to us, we will then submit a committal letter. We will commit to the project, and a third-party developer will install a community solar array. And so we initially went out and started looking for sites that we controlled, that we owned, the city owned, simply because adding the cost of land into the deal only makes it more costly to to install the solar. And so we kind of landed on a couple sites. One that really works good for us is the land surrounding the energy center that we have site control of, and it doesn't really affect others in the community at this point. We've identified another potential site, and this is a Google map. Here we are at the energy center. This is Boomer Lake. This is Airport Road, National Standard. There's a large plot of land back here that we would call a greenfield site, which basically means it's greenfield and there's not any underground or above ground utilities that we would have to navigate around. We haven't vetted this out thoroughly. It's just an option that we would have to really discuss. We don't know if there would be some community pushback from this neighborhood or any other. And those are the type of things that we want to try to mitigate or at least reduce. We don't want to upset anybody. So we have chosen the site around the energy center, and GRDA, this project has actually slowed down quite a bit, sadly, primarily due to the extreme weather events we've just gone through, as well as the ice storm that we went through in October. We had initially hoped to, GRDA is going to go out in tranches, not just one RFQ. They're going to release one RFQ and then sometime in the future after that, release a second, third, fourth, how many ever their customers desire. And so initially thought they would get this first tranche out mid-March to May. I've learned today that's been pushed out probably June to August timeframe. And so we still have some time to discuss. And then we're having internal discussions, and we'd love to hear from the task force about how to build out this site. Do we do it all at once? Do we do it in smaller pieces? There's benefits to both. There's downsides to both. And one thing that we're really kind of trying to focus on is, economics, what makes sense. On one side, you would say the more you build out, the economies of scale get better. But then also, where do you jump in? Where do you sign into the cost curve to install? The installed cost of solar, what we've seen from the past and what we see now is that it's declining. And so if you build it all out at once and say you settle on a price, and we'll just throw a number out there, say 5 cents a kilowatt hour, just for demonstration purposes, and then you sign a 20 to 25 year agreement that you're going to pay that for the term, then 3 years down the road, that price has dropped a penny. It's now 4 cents or 3.5 cents, and you're into this committed contract for 25 years. And so one approach would be to start out with, say, this area here, this 2.5 acres, and build that out in one tranche, dip your toe in the water, so to speak, get your programs in place, find out, truly what the desire is of the customers. Can we fully subscribe this, which, there's arguments to say that we can for sure. And those type of discussions, and get programs built. We have been focused primarily on the DG rate update and new tariff that Lisa's going to speak about. So it's really consumed the majority of our time. We still have not had time to dig deep into this, because while these sound fairly simple, they are very complex. And so we seem to learn more and more about the complexities as we dig deeper. So this is kind of where we're at. We're putting the paperwork together, starting to get our submittal into GRDA. We were kind of pushing for that, but now we understand that we have some time here. So would love to hear feedback, and this is just our general idea of what's possible now for this future community solar project. And I will expand and unshare. Oh, stop share. There we go. Okay, are there any questions that I could answer?
I, I like your idea about starting with the 2.5 acres and doing it in pieces and taking advantage of the price going down in the future. Sounds good to me.
One thought, one benefit of that could be is that, you know, even if it was a little higher and we expect it to go down, it could be a blended cost over the project and somewhat help the overall cost come down to that first piece. So some of our thoughts.
Yeah, I agree with Deanna. I think a phase-in would be better, but I think during the RFQ process, you and I don't know how this is going to be structured, but ask it to be quoted both ways, an install all at once and a phase-in, so you can compare the costs. We can kind of look at it in that perspective.
Yeah, that's a fantastic idea. Yeah, that'd be a great way to look at it, and we could do a cost analysis to see kind of what makes sense.
I wanted to get my thought is that a phased approach or doing it all at once, I think it would be interesting to find out what the demand for the project or the demand for the power from this plant would be, because if you find that only 0.42 megawatts is available and you get oversubscribed by 10x, it really, you might as well go ahead and do the full facility and if you see that much demand, you'll probably want to do another phase later with the lower cost anyway. So it just means that you can install even larger solar facilities in town as time progresses. But yeah, I mean, I think a phased approach would be good if we know that the demand isn't all there all at once, but to take up the 1.4 megawatts. But as you know, Lauren, that 1.4 megawatts is really not a large amount of power.
Sure.
It could probably be signed up pretty quick in the first few months of marketing it to the community.
Yeah.
So that's my thought.
And that's a great point. I you know, as I keep thinking through all this, you know, I think about the risk on both sides, you know, for the SUA and for the customer. You know, the SUA would be signing up for a 20 to 25 year PPA, whereas the customer, we're not sure what that looks like. Is it an annual? Is it, I mean, they could walk away at any time and move to the lower, you know, if they those panels are this much, we're going to the lower cost, you know. So those are things that I would love to hear feedback and ideas, and we try to work through together, because those details are the fine details that need to be worked out.
So, Lauren, if I may, just to add a little bit of technical information, being a power generating asset as a community solar farm will be, prices will go up and prices will go down, and the power markets is not for the faint of heart, as we all saw with you know, the crazy weather a month ago. So basically, there's always risk. You know, you make the best decision you can given all the factors that you're considering at a point in time. And you may strike a deal that's out of the market, but the important thing, or you may strike the best deal ever. There's no guarantee. You just try to get the best information, do your due diligence. GRDA has a lot of valuable expertise. And then the other thing to bear in mind is that whatever resource is developed, any unsubscribed capacity will become part of the city's overall purchase power portfolio for the length of the contract, hopefully.
Thank you very, very much. Yeah, that's great information.
So prices go up and down, power prices go up and down, is what I heard Lisa say, but would SUA be locked into a certain rate from the beginning of the contract? Is that what
Yes,
you were saying, Lauren?
yes, ma'am. It's my understanding that it would be a fixed cost for the term of the agreement. So just for example, if it was 5 cents, it would be 5 cents for 25 years. Now, that doesn't mean and I'm just speaking out loud, maybe it's a inclining or declining, maybe it's something like that. Maybe it's not 5 for the whole 25, but it's 5 for the first 10 and 4 for the next 10, something of that effect, which could be an option.
Typically, the solar contracts that have come out recently, things have evolved over time, but the most recent contracts are a striking deal at a fixed price point for every kilowatt hour produced. So you lock that, and developer uses that so that they can pay the extra and pay the maintenance. In addition to power prices changing, the cost of solar panel technology changes all the time. With the pandemic has disrupted supply chains. So there's a lot of moving parts, and it may be that the new PPAs, that the next generation of solar power purchase agreements might include some sort of escalator if the industry has found that these fixed price contracts start to hurt them. Right now, with declining prices, they've kind of benefited them. So there's a lot of.
So I do have a question that popped up, and it said, would it be possible to put solar on residential and commercial property? And the answer to that is yes, via our distributed generation rate. And Lisa is going to speak to that, our process that we've gone through on that, and revisions that we're making to that after I get done.
I would just like to ask a really basic question, Lauren. The total megawatt hours would be 1.55 for that entire property?
The capacity of the
Capacity.
solar farm would be about 1.5 megawatts.
Okay,
Typically it's 6 megawatts per acre, or 6 acres per megawatt. I'm sorry. So that 9.3 acres equates to about 1.5 megawatts.
what does that, that's 100 houses or 2 businesses or
You bet.
Walmart?
So about 1.5 megawatts, and I'm using the average residential usage of about 875 kilowatts per month. That's about 250 customers.
Okay,
out
thank
of
you.
21,500. And 500, if that little piece was built out first, is about 83 customers.
Okay,
And I have a spreadsheet here that does all that. I'm not just doing that all in my head. So.
well, I was totally impressed, Lauren.
Yeah.
We should have just stopped there.
Yeah, right.
Thank you. How would that actually affect, if I had a regular house and I subscribed for my 875 kilowatt hours, would I be better off than if I were on the electric rate, or how would that affect me individually?
So initially, what we're thinking is that the solar energy will come at a premium to what we pay for energy. And so if it's, we get energy component only at about 2.7 cents just for energy. And if the energy is 4 cents or 5 cents, that's a premium. And I'm just using those as ballpark numbers. We don't truly know, but we anticipate that it will come at a premium.
Okay.
Again, as the installed cost goes down and we start riding the curve down, those could be, start to get, I assume, and would probably think they would start getting closer together.
Okay.
I have
So the marketing,
What's that?
marketing is not on the cost.
Christine, did you have a question? Your hand's raised.
It is raised. I do have a question. It's more of a generality than a specific question. Being that this is the very first of our Renewable Energy Task Force meetings, I was really curious. I apologize for kind of interrupting what we're talking about right now, Lauren. But kind of what the scope of this task force is going to be, or is it going to be concentrated mostly on this one project that has already begun? Or are we going to be able to, or is the thought to branch out into a few other concepts regarding renewable energy within the city and for the citizens, just as an overview of what the plan is? Sorry.
Don't know if my blinders are off and I'm just here to answer and help and provide guidance. This project is really still here at the infancy stage, if you will. So I'll let the rest of the task force speak to that, because I think pretty much anything's on the table. We're just here to start finding the path forward, but I don't know if I can speak for the group.
Yeah, and the resolution, the last section on the resolution says the Renewable Energy Task Force shall develop a plan by March 31st, 2021, which we'll discuss that. Establishing clean energy goals and benchmarks through a transparent and inclusive stakeholder process that includes community members or organizations, groups most impacted by our current energy systems. So like Lauren said, it's all on the table. It's up to this task force to come up with those and the clean energy goals and the benchmarks to present to council at a later date.
Awesome. I love it. The ball is already rolling with this one current, very giant and dynamic project. I was kind of curious if there was an additional scope. So I love that we get to build it as we see fit. That's super cool.
All right, if there's not a comment, oh, Madeline did have a comment in the chat. Can we bank the additional energy against extreme weather events to help reduce future impacts to customers?
So if we're talking about the community solar project, you know, they do, we're talking about in you know, industrial grade batteries. I believe that's what you're asking about, is it, Madeline? Yeah, yeah. And so that technology is certainly out there. I think that there are several installations in Oklahoma where they are teaming wind and solar with large batteries. So I think the short answer is it could be a short-term solution to an event that we went through a couple weeks ago or 3 weeks ago, but batteries discharge. And this was a good example of when we went through these energy emergency alerts 1, 2, and 3. I learned that even if you had battery storage, because we were talking about GRDA has what's called pump back storage. And basically it's where you have a reservoir up here and you run your water down and make hydropower, and then off peak, you pump the water back up the hill. And it's really like a large battery in that sense, that once the battery discharges, and their battery discharges, they have about 8 hours of capacity to make energy. But then during the energy emergency alert 2, when we back down to that, they were in conservation mode and they could not use the 40 megawatts to pump the water back up the hill. So essentially the battery discharged and they couldn't recharge it. So on a large scale facility like that, I would see that as being very similar. And so I think I heard the other day that a lot of these industrial sized battery storage facilities have about 4 hours of capacity. And so once you exhaust that and you are in this energy emergency alert level, you wouldn't have been allowed to recharge the battery, so it would have expelled. So certainly that is out there. You know, I always say in my speeches, you know, we love the wind, we love the solar, but when it doesn't blow, what's there to bridge that gap? And sometime in the future, when that is, I think batteries will play a huge role in that. But I just don't know if they'll be able to cover the whole load, system load, for extended periods of time in cold and darkness. So I'm sure that's going to be worked out in the future, but I hope that answers your question. I didn't ramble on too much, and Lisa may have some better information than that.
Well, let's go ahead and jump to Lisa if you want to touch on that question and then move on with the distributed generation update. Lisa?
Oh,
Sure.
sorry.
So battery storage or storage in general, there's like Lauren said, pumped hydro storage has been around since I don't know how long, the 1800s at least. So there's a lot of different ways to transform or store energy. You can only transform it. You can't store a kilowatt hour of energy. The supply has to instantaneously serve demand. So when you realize that the system balances every time you turn something on or turn something off, I'm in awe. I've been in this industry 30-something years, and I'm amazed that it operates as relatively smoothly as it does, given how complicated this all is. I think we are as we work towards a carbon-free future, storage will have to be part of the solution, as will, potentially, it's a timing thing. If we have to get there tomorrow, people are looking at that again. The truth about energy resources such as wind and solar is that they are variable, and they need what we would call firming or balancing resources to smooth out the load. But we are seeing technology change, in 6 months, literally. So we've come a long way in a very short time, and I think in 5 or 10 years, we'll probably have a lot more storage or transformation type, resources, if that answers your question.
I did have one other point I'd like to make on this topic, which is during that ice storm, having storage wasn't an issue in terms of like solar or wind. They needed all the power you could get. So whatever they're putting out was going to be used by the grid. So storage wasn't the issue in that case. And the one other comment I'd like to make is for in that type of situation, solar, the type of contract we would have fixed pricing so that we wouldn't have, for that portion of the power that the solar provides, we wouldn't be hit with a unforeseen spike in cost for that portion of our power, because it is a fixed contract over the life of that facility. So the variability of power cost is different from what was happening down like in Texas, for example.
All right, Lisa, let's jump to the distributed generation tariff update.
I think I lost my audio, unless I lost them.
I can hear you.
I did not hear the end of Henri's thing. Can you hear me?
Can you hear me?
Okay. Do you want me to go forward with distributed generation?
Sure, I think we're good. And there was a question also in the chat about it. No, I was just saying there was a question in the chat about it as well. So I think your presentation will help address the question in the chat.
Okay. So stated or changed its distributed generation tariff in 2018, and it implemented what we would call a buy-all, which is actually a state-of-the-art tariff design, in which you treat the solar panels on people's houses as small power plants. Retail transaction, the city sells power to the power generation transaction. So the customer continues to buy all its power retail from the city utility and sell it wholesale to city utility. The city received feedback that it was not there was confusion about the tariff. I don't think it was well understood, and it created a lot of, I guess, confusion and feedback to the city that it was not the best way to go about this solution. So the city launched a stakeholder engagement process last fall. They asked me to assist them with that. And starting in late September, we held a bunch of workshops and meetings and had a survey.
Lisa, we're not hearing a lot of what you're saying. Is everyone else having problems hearing Lisa?
She's
Okay.
freezing.
You're freezing a bit, Lisa. I don't know.
I think that's her. We don't have any problem with it.
Okay, let me put this in the chat so she may not be able
You
to
all
sound like a robot, Lisa. Okay, I think she jumped off and she's gonna try to jump on again. She has some really great information to share, so I don't want anyone to miss out on it.
Sorry to interrupt again, but while she's trying to get reconnected, back to the community solar, what is the next step that we should be doing on our side? I mean, I don't really have a clue as to what our next step is from our side. So if Lisa wants to go ahead first, then if Lauren can come back and answer that later on. Thanks.
Sure.
So I switched my internet connection. Can you hear me? We're having high winds, so maybe that has something to do with it. So I apologize. So what I was saying is the city went through a very thorough stakeholder engagement process after receiving feedback on its buy all, sell all tariff. And basically we started that last fall. I think all of you here participated, so we thank you for your input. We got a lot of feedback and spent time revisiting the existing tariff. And we also relied heavily on the cost of service study that the city conducted in 2019, the results were presented in early 2020. So whenever you're talking about changing a tariff, you're talking about cost allocation to different levels of customers and cost recovery, because the city of Stillwater is a nonprofit. It's a public power utility. It doesn't make a profit. So if some customer class pays less, absent growth on the system, another customer class has to pick up that cost, or the city has to find that money someplace else. So we spent a lot of time looking carefully at the costs by different customer classes and how to incorporate a new tariff design other than buy all, sell all. So the decision, we're going to be releasing the draft tariff in the morning, I believe, and you'll all have an opportunity to review all the supporting documentation. It is a modified net energy metering tariff. That was by and large the preferred option. It will include what we're calling a monthly fixed service availability fee to cover the, because the other bit of the information is that under Stillwater's current rate design, especially for residential customers, they recover a significant portion of their fixed costs in consumption-based or variable energy charges. For just a quick back of the envelope, the retail rate is 10.79 cents per kilowatt hour in summer, whereas the general average cost of power might be 3 cents. So there's 7 cents of fixed cost to pay for infrastructure and services and fixed costs that are recovered through consumption-based charges. So it was a rigorous process. We've gone around and looked at it from all different points of view, and we're hoping that when you see the results, you'll be happy with the changes we've made, but you also have an opportunity to offer feedback before we present it to the trustees on April 5th. So I'll turn it back to Becky and Lauren, unless there's questions.
There is a question in the chat that says, can you really say PU does not make a profit? It transfers $15 million each year to the Stillwater General Fund. You know, we don't call those profits, they're excess revenues, and those revenues go into the general fund really to support, you know, like we like to say, we support Main Street, not Wall Street. You know, IOUs pay stockholders all over the world. Our stockholders are our citizens. So that money helps support police, fire, parks, you know, and provide free electricity to our municipal buildings, which helps with the costs. So there's a lot of great benefits that for our citizen stakeholders. So.
Yeah, I agree. It's public power. When a public entity, a municipality has an electric utility, it provides a lot. I've been involved in studies where we tried to value when a municipality or the citizens were considering selling their utility, coming up with the value that utility provides the citizenry, and it goes far beyond the electric service, because it supports city services in so many ways. And if oftentimes if you were to lose that utility, you would have to raise taxes, raise fees for services. So the utility does present tons of benefit to the municipality.
Thank you. Becky, if it's okay, I'll answer Henri's question. Was that okay?
Oh, please.
Okay. Henri, it's a good point. We still have plenty of time here. I really like Mr. Shanahan's idea about, getting price quotes on both. What if we did it smaller, and what if we did we did it in pieces or the large, and then we do a cost analysis to see where that ends up. Like Lisa said, GRDA, they might negotiate one heck of a deal for us, and it's awesome to do the whole thing at once. So I think my next step is to go ahead and complete the submittal that they're requiring. It's not due till June or even as late as August. So we have plenty of time to continue to discuss that further. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, part of it, that's half of it. The other part is when would we be able to go out to the community to find out what the demand side looks like?
I don't know why we couldn't do that now. I'm not sure what that looks like. Honestly, I was hoping that the outreach program that we did, I was hoping to overwhelm Zoom with all the citizens that were interested, and that we could get some feedback there. So I'm not sure what that looks like. If it's a survey or, I don't know. Those are details we'll have to work out.
Right. So I guess what I'm asking is if we could get a small group of people or the task force itself to come out with a recommendation on how to proceed on that side. Like, for example, maybe we do a survey, or maybe we put a pamphlet out with the community, with the monthly electric bill or whatever, that has a little note that says, if you're interested in participating, then please let us know, or do respond by hitting a check mark on the website or something like that. But it'd be nice to know, what the level of interest would be, including on the commercial side.
And I thought we did that with the whole outreach program. So, I mean, we sent out stuff, we put mail stuffers, we sent out website stuff, media blast, we sent out quite a campaign. So that was, I'm guessing we could do that again, but that's what I was hoping to get tons of feedback then.
If I might interrupt.
Yeah.
I think one of the inherent challenges with the way the community solar program is you've got this like, chicken and the egg kind of, people are like, I'm in, but what will it cost? And if it costs too much, I'm probably not in. And so until the city indicates to GRDA how much it's interested in, it can't get a cost. It can't get a realistic cost. So you're kind of stuck in this, until you know what your demand is, no one's going to price it. Until people know what the price is, they don't know what their demand is. So you have a little bit of that confusion, if you will, that challenges the process.
So there wasn't a good response to those questions from that were asked last fall about, I mean, I think they were pretty specific about, would you be willing to pay this much more, that much more,
Yes.
that much more?
Yeah, and so that survey indicated that the city should pursue community solar, that should take it to the next step. So there is interest. The question is, what's the price point? Because that'll, so it's a little bit of a chicken and an egg.
Does
I
this
would
only,
just-
So is it up to this group to kind of, I was just going to ask if is it up to us to decide based on that feedback? And I mean, I don't know what that feedback was, other than that it was overwhelming, to say, yes, go ahead, to make that recommendation.
That we're moving forward.
Pat, why don't you answer that question as vice mayor?
well, I'm just Pat Darlington right here. I would like to see the numbers. I mean, I'd like to see the data. And then I would, as a member of the task force, see the data, see what, I mean, I filled out that survey, but I can't even remember what I wrote or what I answered. But I'd like to see a compilation of that. And I would like then this task force to decide, does this make sense to make a recommendation to the trustees to go ahead with this? And I think, that's the best thing that this group can do is look at that information, decide if it's valid or if we need more education or more education. I'm big on education. And then, well, the first thing, I've just got to see the data that has already been collected. And I will put a huge thing in for education. We may have done a bunch of things, Lauren, before, which we probably did, but maybe my brain has just been on pandemic isolation, but it just can't remember what happened before the pandemic. So, and I think the example of the marketing that was done during the last cold weather snap and all the electricity things and all the above and beyond follow-up marketing, we have a much more targeted social media targeting. I mean, advertising, education. I think we could do that again, just on social media. It wouldn't have to be printed material or anything else, but a huge. I'm going to guess, and this is just a wild guess. People who look on social media would be in the population that would be more open to solar in a way.
Well, and something, just to put a concept out there that I have seen other task forces such as yours take up, because there's really no good entity to deal with these types of issues. An issue that will come up time and time again is providing access to renewables for lower income or fixed income members of your community. And that's an issue that I find, as an expert in the industry, it's not best addressed through rate schedules, essentially. It's better addressed through other civic groups. So the task force may want to reach out to a group that deals with that part of your community, and as part of your overall process, see if there's any creative solutions to maybe get a portion of the solar farm for that community somehow. I mean, I'm just throwing that out there. Feel free to reject it, but.
Oh, Lisa, I think that's a wonderful idea. And I also think that, I mean, my initial comment about, if it's going to be if solar is going to be a premium, you're not going to sell it on cost to anyone. So it's kind of, what would you call aspirational or inspirational or whatever. People who are going to choose this are not doing it for the cost. And the idea of being able to provide solar for parts of the community that struggle would fit in with that profile, I think, also. So I think that is a great addition to the whole promotion of the project.
And
Are only residential residential homes able to access this solar grid?
No, it would be open to everybody. And Henri had some great ideas early on. I mean, to go out and you start talking about residential, start looking at commercial and other large commercials could probably easily subscribe. So, I see us, we got approval from the trustees to start the process with GRDA. There's like 6 steps. And then after the negotiations and all, when you get down to the brass tacks of the numbers and what everything is, that's when you're committed. If you sign up, you can walk away at that point. I would make the recommendation that we head down this path in parallel, that we continue down. We offer in the SEC site with optional pricing for a little bit, a lot, the whole thing, move down the path parallel together, and we start gauging interest from not even residential, but even commercial, and we kind of go it that way. Then when we meet at the middle, at the end, we can go, oh, we can see we've got this fully subscribed and it's going to be at this rate. We can really make a better decision. That's just my thoughts. So.
I have a couple comments here, kind of want to rewind. First of all, back to Pat's comment about what the level of community interest was. Sharon found the survey results from the flash vote, and I suggest that we recirculate that among the task force so we can review those again. Also, I totally agree with Pat. Education is very important. When I was on the curbside recycling task force, once we decided how we're going to accomplish our goal, we reached out to the community in various ways. And it has to be remembered, it's just not a one-shot deal. It will have to be an ongoing process for education, but that will have to be done. Also, my comment would be in terms of costs. When the rubber meets the road, people will want to know the costs. I wonder if once we go through this RFQ process in regards to the solar facility, and we have at least a better ballpark cost, that we could share that with the community and resurvey at that point in time.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think that's a fantastic idea. And I think there were some questions, some comments over in the chat. I just wanted to clarify. And hopefully Lisa answered your question with the distributed generation rate. That is specifically talking about solar or wind or biomass, anything on your side, on the customer side of the meter. So solar panels on your house, that addresses that topic, I hope.
All right. If it's all right with everyone, I took notes on some of the topics that you were discussing, but let's first look at number 5 on the agenda, considering a new date or a new deadline on our resolution that was previously passed by council. It has March 31st, 2021 which I don't think we'll have our recommendation finished in a few days. So we have 8 task force dates scheduled, and you can see that on the agenda. So we had put on there, we were recommending putting the date of June 24th, which is our last task force, but it's up to you if you want to extend that, or what you would be interested in putting as the date on the resolution, and then we'll bring that to council on April 5th to be to change the date. So if there's any feedback on that.
Is there a, does that Lauren was mentioning, there was a delay with submitting the proposal over to GRDA and then coming back, getting answers back from GRDA. How late would that be? Is it past the end of June?
Yeah, I would anticipate that. June was thrown out there, and then they actually said it could be as late as August. So.
And if you did December 31st, is that just to sunset the task force? Yeah. Maybe you do that.
We could put towards the end of the year, we could do, Melissa's recommending December 31st, 2021, and that gives us time, which task force could end before that, or we could, it gives us flexibility if that sounds good. Yeah, okay, I see some nods.
I think that's a good idea.
Okay,
You know, what Christine was asking about, are we on this task force, are we going to just discuss these 2 issues, the community solar and distributed generation? I think I personally think there's a lot more that we should talk about, and a lot more sort of planning related issues that we could make recommendations about, which are going to, I'm not sure we could accomplish that by end of June. I don't know, maybe we could, but it might be good to have the flexibility of a later deadline. After all, when the resolution was signed last March, it gave us a whole year. So.
And
I would rather see
I would
a
just
later
add,
deadline.
I have worked with a lot of task forces and been part of coming up with these types of recommendations. A year is not an unrealistic time frame. I mean, that's somewhat aggressive, because there's a lot in your, there's a lot of ways to address these issues. So just kind of narrowing down your focus can easily take 3 to 6 months to come up with, a couple key recommendations that you're really going to go forward with.
okay.
And that needs to be.
So we could do a year, or we could do end of the year, and then if we need to extend it, we can. I mean, do you want to go for the end of the year, and then if we get to December and it looks like we just need a lot more time, then we'll bring it back to the council? Okay, I see some head nods, so we'll move forward with that. And then we have on 6 on the agenda, it just goes through the task force meetings that we have scheduled to date, and obviously we can change that and add that. I did want to mention, when I talked to Lauren and Lisa earlier today, we are going to email you the DG tariff that we've been working on in the morning, and then we will also place it on the website on the Speak Up Stillwater page for this task force that anyone can see and access. But you may have some comments on that, and if we wait until our next meeting, that's after it's already placed in the packet for the council meeting. And so we could, if you wanted, have a special meeting next week to discuss just that document, if that's of interest to you. We can wait until you see the document, or we can go ahead and schedule that now, up to you.
I say schedule it.
Okay. Any suggestions. We could stick with, we could just do next Thursday, same time, or we could do another date. I don't know if we'll need the full hour and a half. We could just do an hour. If I don't hear any,
I would just point out, just for everybody's edification, if it, on the 26th, which is Friday, the package will be sent to the city manager's office. So if you don't have a meeting until Thursday, very little could happen. I mean, we'll make whatever can happen, but just to bear that in mind.
that's a good point. Thanks for reminding me of that, Lisa. So maybe earlier in the week may be better. If you get the document tomorrow, you can have the weekend to look at it. We could do a Tuesday at 4. Okay. So let's plan on Tuesday, the 23rd at 4 p.m. And the only thing on the agenda will be to discuss that document, and then we could get feedback to Lisa, and then it'll go in the council packet by Friday. Does that work for everybody? Okay, we'll send that Zoom link out, and you'll also get the document tomorrow morning. And then as far as topics, you've mentioned a lot on just this call. Do we want to just, I mean, I want this to be what you want it to be. So I'm happy to create the agenda that you want to discuss at each meeting. Looking at April 1st as our next one, it may be good if I give you the flash vote results, and then we can start there where we just have the survey results, and then from there generate discussion with next steps and what you want to focus on project wise.
Maybe everybody brings suggestions.
And you can bring suggestions or email me in the meantime.
I think one of the items needs to be narrowed down or scope.
Yeah. Lauren, did you have something?
So I'm presenting at the APPA Engineering Conference from 3:30 to 4:30 on Tuesday. So I may be a little late. If you go ahead at 4, I don't know when it'll be done. It'll probably be about 4:30 before I could join. So. But the expert's right over there, though. I'm pointing down at Lisa. So you got her.
She'll be there, right,
Yeah.
Lisa? Okay. All right, so we'll send out that Zoom link for the special meeting on Tuesday. You'll get the distributed generation tariff form tomorrow morning. For the agenda on April 1st, which is our next scheduled task force meeting, we'll talk about the flash vote results and go from there, narrow down our scope. And then from here, unless there's any other comments, it's public comments. So we have a few attendees just listening in. They may have a question or two. So if you're listening.
I have a comment.
Yeah, Lisa.
So again, since this is your first kind of official working meeting, I think it's really important to define like maybe 3 to 5 items that you want this task force, at most, that you want this task force to accomplish, because if you're not clear and focused and hit the ground with 3, maybe 5 real issues you want to address, you may not accomplish anything by the end of it, because this topic is so huge and there's so many ways to go about it. None of them are right or wrong, but I think that the sooner this task force can get clarity around what it really wants to tackle, it will be much more effective, and everybody's time will be much better spent. That's just my experience from years of helping groups like this.
That's great. And we'll put that on the April 1st, our next task force meeting, to the survey results and narrow down our scope. And so bring your ideas, bring all the things you want to discuss and learn, and we can use that time.
Limit the agenda for this.
I think the Ready for 100 original layout. Do you remember, Deanna and Robin, what you brought? I think that gives a whole, a really broad look at the many things that could be done. And that would be easier to start from a list like that and choose, as Lisa wisely recommended, 3 to 5 things that we really want to focus on. But I liked all the options in that Ready for 100 handout that we discussed.
Can someone email that to me and then I can get it out to the group? Okay, Robin, thank you, I appreciate that. And we'll get that to you before, in addition to the agenda for that April 1st meeting.
Great.
Any other comments or?
Did you open up the
If any of the attendees listening, if you would like to make a comment, you can either put it in the chat or raise your hand and I can allow you to ask. Give that a few seconds. All right, any other questions from the task force or thoughts or comments? We have 18 minutes left, so if you just want to chat for 18 minutes. No, we're gonna go home and cook dinner. Yes, Robin.
I want to make an announcement, and if it's not appropriate, just shout about a civic engagement opportunity having to do with energy efficiency at the state level. What?
Go for it. Floor is yours.
Okay, so energy efficiency is really important to any transition to clean energy. And there's an opportunity right now for civic engagement at the state level. The Oklahoma Uniform Building Codes Commission sets building codes for the whole state. Currently, the energy efficiency standards are quite out of date, and they're considering updating them. And they're calling for volunteers from the building trades to serve on a review committee to look at the 2015 International Energy Efficiency Codes and make recommendations for the state to update its building codes. So if anybody knows somebody in the building trades, these people have to be qualified engineers, roofers, architects, designers, that sort of thing. I think it would be really good to have someone from Stillwater on this technical committee. And I can, if anybody is interested, I don't know if anybody on the task force is qualified, but if you're interested, I can email you the information, or you can go to the website for the Oklahoma Uniform Building Codes Commission. It's oubcc.org.
And Robin, Patty said she sent that information that you sent her to the Building Trades Board. So
yes, thank you, Patty.
Oh, and Heinrich says he's interested.
They're still looking for volunteers. I got another email just 2 days ago. So
Robin,
they need like 20 people.
You see in the chat, one of our attendees, Dr. Vora, said he's interested and put his email address in there. Can you
Oh,
see
great.
that?
Okay.
Okay.
Yes. I will send him an email.
Perfect. Any other comments, questions, words of wisdom? No? All right, well, I thoroughly enjoyed this task force meeting with you. I'm excited about all of the great work that we're going to do as a group. I always think that we work better together and as a team, and with all of the great minds that we have working on this, we're sure to make a difference in our community. So Thanks so much for caring for your community and for volunteering your precious time to be a part of this task force. So with 14 minutes to spare, we are adjourned. Have a fantastic evening.